Mason Taylor out of LSU might sneakily be one of the best receiving tight ends in a fantastic tight end class. He has a great ability to find space, coupled with fantastic change of direction ability and a sneaky yards after the catch threat. But there are some problems with his game where he tends to play as a little bit of a one-speed athlete. Can this guy succeed in the NFL? And is he going a little bit under the radar? If you like this content, please consider liking and subscribing. But let's take a little bit of a deep dive into one of the more underrated tight ends in this class. One of the main things that I noticed about Taylor is that I think he has a great ability to change direction. I think he is a really fluid mover, particularly for a tight end and for one with relatively prototypical size. Someone that you think of as more of an inline blocker when you look at them, but actually is more of a big slot type weapon. I think that ability to change direction very fluidly is something that helped him in his ability to run a full route tree, which he did at LSU. Now, that is rare for a tight end in college. A lot of the time, we see these either athletic freaks or these less athletic guys who are used in a more specific way. But Taylor is one of the tight ends in this class that ran a full route tree, potentially even more than someone like Tyler Warren right at the top of the board. I also think he is a very natural hands catcher. He has a really strong frame and the ability to reach outside of the frame to pluck a ball out of the air. And we saw him do this in a variety of ways, whether it was contested catches, but also the ability to work over the middle of the field. That hands catching ability is something which is really strong when you are working in tight spaces, which a lot of tight ends, especially if you're working out of the slot, will have to do. I also think he definitely has enough juice to break plays open down the seam. I think this is one of the tight ends in this class that has the ability to create chunk plays, which is a really strong factor of his game and something you love to see from the tight end position. I also think he is sneakily a really good yak threat. This is someone who was able to break tackles and change on a dime to be able to break plays open. So it's someone that can create space down the seam, a good route runner, ran a really varied route tree, but also actually able to create yards after the catch, which was a really strong facet of his game. Ultimately, this is a really well rounded player in the receiving game, and someone that I am going to be taking a lot of in fantasy drafts. One of the weaknesses with his game, however, is that even though he does have good athleticism, he tends to run a lot of his routes at one speed. And this is fine because he does have a decent amount of juice or burst and acceleration, but he needs to learn a little bit more of variety in terms of his tempo to be able to continue to break plays open in the NFL. It's just way too obvious the routes that he's running because he doesn't have the ability to use head fakes, body jukes, or any subtlety within his rhythm to be able to stem a defender and head in a different direction to create separation. This is something he's going to have to learn when he gets to the NFL. Another huge facet that he's going to have to learn is run blocking. He plays way too upright as a blocker, which means that he had a tendency to get put on his ass, especially by power rushers. If someone can find their way into his chest, he does not currently have the ability to anchor, which means that he's just going to be pushed backwards. And this is something that I saw a lot on his film. And this ultimately sums him up in terms of the main weakness. This isn't an inline tight end. This isn't someone that is going to initially come into the league and be able to support you in the run game. This is a slot or a move tight end, and a good one that I really think can succeed at the next level. But you are not going to be able to play him on all three downs currently because he is an active weakness in the running game. I saw a lot of early Zach Ertz in Taylor's film, and we associate Zach Ertz these days with the inability to find yards after the catch, but actually, throughout the early years of his career in Philadelphia, this is something that he was okay at. Zach Ertz was essentially a big slot, someone that could get open in the receiving game, provide easy checkdowns, be a great red zone threat, and also just find their way to get open consistently. This is something that I see Taylor being able to do. Zach Ertz later on in his career developed that run blocking ability, which is something Taylor is definitely going to have to work on to succeed in the NFL. But I definitely think this is someone that could find themselves doing a 1,000-yard season relatively early in their career, definitely while on their rookie contract, especially if he finds a landing spot where he can produce as the number 2 weapon on an offense. And he is currently looking to go towards the back of the second, maybe the early third. I think Taylor has a chance to be the third tight end off the board. With a lot of teams uncertain about Harold Fannin Jr., there's a lot of controversy around him, and Elijah Arroyo being the kind of consensus tight end 3, but being more of an athletic project than someone we've really seen produce at the college level. So I can see him finding a really nice spot on day 2. In terms of where you should draft him, his current ADP has him going outside the top 5 rounds. I would take him towards the middle of the third, or maybe back of the third, beginning of the fourth. This is someone who I think is a really strong receiving tight end, and someone who I think is probably going to be a fantasy contributor for years to come. I think Taylor is going to slot in as my tight end 3 or 4 in this class when all's said and done. And being able to get that level of production at the back of the third round is something that I will be smashing every single time. Let me know your thoughts on Taylor down below in the comments, and while you are there, please consider liking and subscribing to this video. Go to my channel and check out all of my other rookie profiles that are available. We are nearing the end of my 50 profiles in 50 days series, so there is so much content for you to check out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.